Hey everybody, so done some self-reflection and I wanted to share, and I particularly want to, I'm going to tag my Druid friend accounts so that they can respond, because I think this is a good discussion. Don't mind my eye, I had an allergic reaction. Don't worry about it, we're fine. I didn't get punched in the face. But, no, I'm a trauma counselor. Something that I like to do with all of my clients is ask them at the end of every session, what's your bright spot? I listen to Knowledge Fight, the podcast, and they ask, what's your bright spot? And I think it's a good way to end a session, especially when you're talking about trauma, because it reminds you, like, you know, something did make me happy this week, even though I just spent an hour, like, discussing the worst parts of everything, you know. And every once in a while, a client will ask me, what's your bright spot? And I have one in particular that always asks me, and if I forget to ask, he'll be like, hey, what's your bright spot? And I'm just like, oh god, I forgot. He's great. And so we did our what's your bright spots, and I said, my bright spot was that I'm planning on getting some very aggressive shirts. And one of my friends at Writing Club told me that I was basically on the front lines for the whole resistance situation that is happening in America, because I'm a trauma counselor specifically for minorities and LGBTs. And I was like, I don't feel like I am. I really don't. I feel like all of my clients are on the front line, and I'm the medical tent that they come back to. Like, someone shot me in the arm, and it's just like, don't worry, we'll sew it back on. I feel like that's what my purpose is. But then we kind of sat, because every once in a while a client needs to sit with themselves. You need to sit with you and just kind of have a 5 minutes of silence to, like, really process. And I love having that few minutes with my clients because it's important. And he looked at me and he was like, what motivates you? Now, that was the theme of the day with every single one of my clients. Was, I'm having a hard time motivating myself. I can't find the motivation to do things. I don't have any motivation to do things that I need to do so that I feel better. And he said to me, he was like, what motivates you? I stopped, I was like, in what way? And he said, anyway, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you up in the morning? And I was like, that's a two-part answer. He was like, okay. And I was like, the first part, spite. And he kind of laughed and nodded and was like, I was like, but that's just what got me through college. Because I was told that based on statistics, I wouldn't be able to graduate from my bachelor's degree, you know, based on statistics with my epilepsy and being born with it and where it is in my brain and all of that. Like, statistically, I was not supposed to graduate from my bachelor's program. And I was like, well, fuck that. And so, spite. I wanted to prove statistics wrong. I refused to be a statistic. And I was like, but that is graduating from my bachelor's program. I have now graduated from my master's of science. I have now become a trauma counselor, and it gets me motivated. What motivates me, this is where the Druidry comes in, is the sake of the ecosystem. And he kind of looked confused. He was like, what do you mean? And I was like, you know that I practice Druidry. And I say practice Druidry. Being a Druid is a job, by the way. Like, it's not. And so I say practice Druidry for the sake of simplifying everything. But I said, you know, I practice Druidry. It's an animistic faith. And what that means, essentially, we believe the entire world is an ecosystem. And every person has their own pocket of an ecosystem. And because everybody has their own pocket of an ecosystem, their pocket then affects everybody else's pockets that surrounds them, that they meet. And then those people that they met affect the people that they meet. And it very quickly spreads, you know, and those become social movements and things like that. And it goes into how I protest as well, because I'm not a fan. I am against the people being like, this company sucks, let's make it the grocery store workers' problem. It's like, they don't give a shit if you make it the grocery store workers' problem. What you have to do is, like, make it hurt their bottom line. Stop buying it. And when people say, hey, do you want one? Just be like, no, I don't believe in what that company does. Well, what do? Well, they do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, oh shit, I didn't know that. I'm not buying one now. And then they go and they tell people, and eventually it starts to suffocate the negativity. It doesn't happen as quickly as, like, anyone would like it to. but it happens. And so in my job, I would not be able to live with myself if I found out my job, somebody's ecosystem was a little bit more toxic because they met me. I would not be able to live with myself if that was the result of my presence in somebody's life. And so everything I do is for the sake of the betterment of the ecosystem. Because even with this client, I have affected his life in such a way that he has referred 2 or 3 people to come to therapy specifically with me, saying like, no, like Andrew is really great. I've had people like say, oh, you know, my friend so-and-so said that you were awesome and I would really love to like be a client with you. And I'd be like, yeah, 100. You know, I'm affecting the ecosystem in a positive way because people are changing and figuring out deeper parts of themselves, not because of me, but because I am able to be there to support them. And so everything I do is for the ecosystem. And he was like, that is really beautiful. And I wasn't expecting that. And I was like, oh, you weren't expecting that? And he was like, I was expecting the spite. I wasn't expecting the other part. And that kind of made me sit for a second and be like, I love that you expected your therapist's motivation in life to be spite. But anyway, and then my next client was like, I can't find the motivation to do the things that I need to do to change myself. How do you find the motivation? And I got to say the same thing. And they said, and I was like, but I do struggle with making more moves towards, you know, doing yoga every day at the same time, waking up at the same time every day, all of that. And I said, wouldn't that improve your ecosystem, your pocket of the ecosystem? And I was like, in a way it would. However, if I wake up every day at 6:30 and I make that a rule for myself and my respite job ran late and I didn't get home until 1 a.m, well, then I'm only getting 5 hours of sleep. And maybe then I wouldn't be able to do my job as effectively that day for my clients, you know? And so I am sitting here like, well, it's more important what I'm doing for the ecosystem right now than me waking up at 6:30 in the morning. So animism, fellow druids, do you agree? What do you think?